Okay, we're live again. Okay, so we're back after I think about 4 weeks, as we did just on the bye week when we had Cincinnati, the Raiders, and the Atlanta Falcons, of course. So I'm gonna do my rant first because I think I deserve my rant for a second. I said under a Lamar Jackson led Ravens that we were going to change and that we are going to go 3-0. We're going to be back this week, right now, talking about a Chiefs game. That's what I said. That's what happened. Lamar Jackson. That guy was the most, that is, excuse me, he is the most electrifying player in the National Football League. This is a different Ravens team than what it was under 4-5 Joe Flacco. Just want to let you guys know that. All right. So we'll go ahead and get into the podcast itself, and we'll move forward from there now. But since we hadn't had the chance, obviously Cincinnati, Raiders, and Falcons, what are your guys' thoughts on the last three games for this Ravens? What do you like about what's different, and what do you not like about it? So I'll start with Al. What do you like about this Lamar-led Ravens offensively? What do you like? What do you dislike?
I mean, I like the fact that they're playing to his strengths. I mean, they know what they have in Lamar, and they're playing to those strengths. I like the fact that first week they went with Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards played well, and up to this point they've stuck with him. And that's been made evident because they put Alex Collins on IR. I like the trade for Ty Montgomery. That's so far turning out to be a pretty good trade as well. I mean, the thing I really like about the offense though is that even if they do have a three and out, they're on the field for 2 minutes of clock time usually, at least. And the challenge sometimes with Joe was they may run the ball once, then you come back out and maybe you hurry up and get back to the line. They throw a couple passes, you get somebody to drop one, a receiver runs one short of the first down marker, and then you're off the field in a minute of clock time. So that's why you saw the time of possession jump up about 7 or 8 minutes when Lamar was running the offense. In the same amount of plays, the offense was just possessing the ball longer. So you take the ball out of some of those potent offenses' hands, such as Atlanta last week. You don't give Atlanta the opportunities, and they'll need that this week. So I just like what Roman, what Morningweg are doing. They've given him the opportunity to pass some. They've shifted back to the run game some, and they're doing what works, and they're playing to the strength of the players on the team. The offensive line looks heads and tails better than what they did with Joe Flacco. The running backs look better. They've just made some decisions to move this team forward, and it looks like to try to win. I mean, they're not trotting Buck Allen and his 2 point whatever yards per carry anymore. So I like it, and I think they should stick with Lamar the rest of the season, and not at this point to see what you have, but just to turn the page and let's move towards the future.
All right, Vincent. Now you're up. Oh no, yeah, go ahead, Vincent. Lamar led Ravens. What do you like? What do you dislike?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's all pretty obvious what is positive about this change is, obviously, the ability to control the clock, the ability to, really get this run game going, and obviously, Lamar as a run threat has opened up things in this new scheme to be more downhill as a running attack. And I think part of the problem is, with our run game earlier is that, we were way too wide, way too, outside zone, not enough hat on a hat downhill running. Clearly, Gus Edwards is a back that can handle that type of offense, and man, he hits the hole hard. So, I think we found a little something there. Clearly the ability to control the clock, you cannot, downplay that. So certainly, that part of what we have done. And, for as much as, myself, all of us have killed this coaching staff over the past few years, and deservedly so. They deserve a ton of credit because, behind the scenes, obviously, during the offseason when they drafted Lamar, as we started, knowing that Joe was still the guy and that we still had to build out the offense for Joe. And I have my issues with how they have structured that offense because I don't think they've set that offense up for success. But you got to hand it to them in terms of what they were able to do behind the scenes to get that Lamar package ready to go. And obviously the bye week helped to be able to, implement that. But the bottom line is they have a pretty solid scheme going here. Now, we can talk about sustainability of this offense. I have, a tremendous amount of concern about that. Frankly, the facts are that this offense is not sustainable as it's currently constructed. But when you're talking about trying to beat, three teams that are, extremely limited on defense, who have, frankly, terrible rush defense, and, the ability to take advantage of that with this scheme. I think they've just managed the last three games really as good as possible. And, I just give a ton of credit to this coaching staff to get this scheme ready to go. And, those are clearly the positives. I mean, we'll get into some of where this needs to go because clearly where it's at right now, while successful in the last 3 weeks, is clearly not going to be an offense that will sustain us long term. But I'm not frankly worried about that right now. I'm more just concerned about winning football games, and they did what they needed to do to manage a rookie quarterback with a currently limited skill set to be able to, win the last three games. So I give the coaching staff a ton of credit for that.
All right, Bill, you're up. What do you like? What do you dislike about this Ravens offense under Lamar?
I do like Gus Edwards. I think Gus Edwards is a big find. I think he gives you all the things that Leonard Fournette gives you without all of the attitude that Leonard Fournette brings to the game. He is niftier in the hole than what a guy his size, what you would think. But once he decides to lower the battering ram, he's every time turning a 2-yard gain into a 4-yard gain every time. And like that, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. Yes, Lamar Jackson is opening up the running game, but Gus Edwards is battering the opponent defense. So, yeah, like I like that. Like that is something you can build upon because Lamar Jackson, unless God forbid he gets injured, is not going to get any less athletic. And so the holes that Gus Edwards is running through are still going to be there in the weeks to come, I would imagine. And I'll say I liked the things that Marty – oh, God, it's hard to say that because I don't like Marty Mornhinweg. I liked the things that Marty worked into the offense. I mean, John Brown was open for a touchdown. That was a walk-in touchdown if Lamar hits him, and he missed. And as soon as – I don't know if – it was not that same drive, but there was an instant and I don't remember exactly what play it was, but it was for a first down. I texted you guys at the time during the game when Lamar missed somebody for a first down. He slung it sidearm. He threw it sidearm, and they missed him for a first down. James Urban was in his ear as soon as he came off the thing, and he was showing him. He's like, "You got to throw it." He's like, "If you throw it overhand, that's a first down." And so, like, I believe twofold. He needs to get better throwing the football, but I think he's gonna. And the fact that he has not done it so far, and the fact that he's missed a couple of guys in the last couple of games, is going to make the defense start to creep up. That Kansas City defense, it knows we're going to pound them, and so they're going to start to creep up towards the line. Oh, Lamar can't throw it, and all of a sudden he's going to throw a bomb, and he's going to hit somebody, and I don't know if it's going to be Brown or not. Please don't send Crabtree on any more vertical routes. But you know, I would like to see it, and I think it's going to happen. I'm feeling good. I feel the juice. So you know, Lamar obviously has to work on his accuracy. He has to work all the time on it, and has to work on his mechanics, keep his footwork in order. He has to stay down because he stands tall because he's a short quarterback. So he gets up on his feet, and then all of a sudden he's just flicking it. He's just flicking it with his sidearm or whatever bullshit throw he's doing because he's not set. So he's got to work on his mechanics, and that's something they're going to have to work on. And hopefully he's going to be better because I think he can, because his accuracy got better every single year he was at Louisville. And I think our coaching staff is better than Bobby Petrino's coaching staff. And so I'm hopeful that over the course of just the next couple of years here, that he gets his accuracy back up. And he threw 61%, I think, his last year at Louisville. And if we can get him to 61% in the NFL, we're going to be a business. So, I'm hopeful. Hayden Hurst, I'd like you to do something good at some point.
We'll get to that.
I thought that's selling him short because I think he's a ginger devil, and I'm concerned with our safety as Baltimore Ravens fans. But the truth of the matter is he didn't have a bad game blocking and that kind of stuff. Like, he did some stuff that didn't show up in the stat line that I thought was good. But please, okay, all the blocking is good. Let's start catching touchdowns now.
All right, my turn. What do I like about this offense? Obviously, I'll agree with some of the points that you guys have made. He just missed. Those are nerves. He seems to get a little bit nervous, but he settles himself down throughout the game and gets more comfortable. So some of those throws we saw missed, I think he'll start making them. I agree with Bill. He's going to connect on one of these deep balls, one of these really nice over the middle of 30, 40-yard passes. I think the run game and the offensive line, one thing that I didn't hear anybody really say, except for Al, I think, was they got rid of Buck Allen, they got rid of Alex Collins, and now it's Gus and Kenneth Dixon in their running. So they completely changed the run game. They also changed the offensive line a little bit. So you got Brown in there more. They've also started a little better on the blocking scheme. So whatever's clicking is clicking. And that this offense has, I think it was 800 yards 780 yards, 90 yards in 3 games versus 900 yards or 850 yards we had in 9 games. So the big difference here is, yes, we can run it. The time of possession has completely changed for this team. I also believe that the offense has inspired the defense more, and that's been a huge, huge thing here. So getting those 3rd and 5s, I'm not freaking out on a short pass that's 2 yards and the guy gets tackled. Like, great job, Flacco. Why don't you go for the first down? He's actually stretching his legs out. He's getting the first down. He needs to learn to slide. I'll agree. So he doesn't get himself hurt. But he's getting those short downs. He's getting first down. He's moving the chains. He's inspiring everybody on this team to, hey, we have a chance. And now, not only do we have a chance in the last 3 games now coming into this next one, we'll talk about that in a second, but he's done a really good job. I think he just gets nervous. I think you'll see that settle down more coming into the Chiefs. I think he won't throw as many passes, but he's going to throw about 24, 25 times. All right. We'll move on to the next.
Hang on.
Want a rebuttal?
One more. No, it's not a rebuttal. I just neglected to mention. I wanted to say, how great is the Ty Montgomery trade now? I mean, this guy, he had 5 catches for 42 yards. 5 for 42. That's an excellent game out of a running back. And he had a couple carries. Didn't embarrass himself in any way. I like that pickup even more now than I did whatever it was 3 weeks ago or whenever it was.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Go ahead, Al.
Ty Montgomery can get to the edge and get around the corner. He's just got some speed. I thought Buck Allen was a great receiver in terms of catching the ball, but Buck just didn't have any burst when he got the football. He couldn't outrun anybody, so he was only going to get the yards that were there. Whereas I feel like Ty Montgomery can get you a little extra.
All right, Vince, anything else to add to that?
Nope. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on to the next one. How about we're going to move just for a second is how much of an impact has this year's draft had on this team now doing better at 7-5? So I'll start with Bill. How much has this draft class impacted this team right now?
I mean, obviously, the inclination is to go straight to Lamar because he is the future of the quarterback position, and the whole success of the franchise rides on his ability to stay on the field. Having said that, I mean, we talked about before, Orlando Brown has transformed this offensive line. If James Hurst is able to come back at some point and play, effectively, having Brown at right tackle is a world of difference. And so getting it and we also in the same round, Mark Andrews, we talked about it before we were on the air that, when we drafted Mark Andrews, I said I thought he was going to be better than Hayden Hurst, and I stand by that. I mean, I am hopeful that Hayden Hurst proves me wrong because it's going to mean that we have two really good tight ends because I believe Mark Andrews is a really good tight end. And so, yeah, I mean, I love our draft class this year, and some of the later round picks and stuff from previous years have played better than I thought. Illuminor, he played left tackle at an acceptable level as far as I was concerned when he got in there. I mean, obviously, I do not want to see Illuminor playing left tackle for us in the long term, but we have drafted, we've missed on the top picks to our chagrin, but like the middle round guys, I still think Kenneth Dixon has a chance to be a very good running back. So, yeah, I mean, I like our draft class this year, and I've liked the last couple, although we've passed on players that I wish we had not passed on. We talked about it ad nauseum, so I won't bring them up again. But yeah, I like our draft class this year, and it's made a big difference in the franchise.
All right, Vince, you're up. This draft class of 2018, and we had to nail it. Did they nail it? What about this draft class? What's the impact has had on this team right now?
Yeah, so this is where I might shift a little bit from you guys, but I think at the top, the jury is still out from my perspective. I'll talk about the positives first because we're keeping this positive, baby. We're in the playoff race. Let's go. So, Orlando Brown, I think, was a revelation in round 3. The guy's just going to be a staple at right tackle for 10 years, and there's just no doubt about it. He was pretty much plug and play, and we're not going to look back at the right tackle position. He has everything you want in the position. The thing that's impressed me the most about him, when we know how tough he is, we know the bloodlines, we know how physical of a player he is. The guy's got some movement skills. I mean, I've seen him get up to the second level multiple times. The guy has pulled, on occasion he's pulled. He's able to get up to the second level. So all that combine nonsense was disproven. So love that. Mark Andrews, to Bill's point, frankly, going into the draft, he was one of my favorite tight ends come in this draft. So, not surprised he's doing well. Even further down the line, a guy like Anthony Everett's provided pretty good depth at the cornerback position. I think, he could be a revelation down the road. And that kid, Zach Sealer, is seen some action. And especially when we had some injuries on the D-line a little earlier in the year, he's provided some depth. So there's some good things to take out of it. This draft class will live and die on obviously the 2 first-round picks. And, I think most of you guys know where I stand that, with these two first-round picks, the jury's still out from my perspective. I mean, Hayden Hurst, certainly the injury at, anytime a rookie gets hurt early, whether it be late in preseason, into the first few weeks of the season, that has an impact. So, I'm not ready to give up on him, but, I hated the pick from the second it was announced. I think you guys know that I was all aboard Calvin Ridley. To me, he was a slam dunk. I don't really know why he fell, The Falcons got a steal. It's, I think GMs love to overthink in the draft. Like, the dude's just a stud. He can play ball. He runs crisp routes. The guy is a football player. And the league, just for whatever reason, his little slight of build, injury, whatever the case may be, they just, overlooked him. We had multiple opportunities, and that one stings. It really does. And, we'll see about Hayden Hurst, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to regret that pick. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. But you're talking a 25-year-old tight end, and we have essentially a wasted rookie year at this point. I mean, he's doing some things blocking the Bills' point earlier, but it's a wasted. We'll see. I'm not feeling optimistic. And then, look, for all that Lamar Jackson has done in the last 3 weeks to galvanize this team to add excitement. I hear all the intangible factors. You can't quantify it. So, I get it. I understand it. I understand the Flacco fatigue. I understand the need to move on. I understand all of that. But I'm going to be honest. My pre-draft evaluation was that I had my doubts about whether this guy could win from the pocket, make throws outside of the numbers, challenge defenses with tight window throws, especially outside the numbers. And I am no way giving up on him, and I am no way, feeling negative about him. But I'm just objectively looking at what I looked at pre-draft and what I've seen him in 3 full games, was pretty much what I expected. I have seen a very limited pocket passer who is a mess mechanically. His arm slot is just all over the place. It is inconsistent. His footwork is very shoddy in the pocket. He is still way too upright, way too narrow of a base. And you can see there's sometimes you can see things are not natural for him in the pocket because he's thinking through the mechanics of playing the position, and he's thinking about his footwork. He's thinking about his arm angle. So, what I've seen good about him is when he's outside of the pocket, he is a natural thrower outside of the pocket. So the arm talent is there. The question is, can this guy ever develop himself as a pocket passer to win from the pocket? And, I don't care what kind of offense you put around him. I don't care, how you structure this offense. Like I said, I think the coaching staff has done a very nice job structuring this offense. And, I was the guy that said he needs time. Like he needs time. So it's not fair to him for me to make a solid evaluation and say, well, this is what he's going to be. We're nowhere near that point. He needs at least one off season, if not more. He needs constant dedication to his craft. And by all accounts, he's a great kid. He, great attitude, great leadership. He's a guy you want to root for. So there's no doubt about that. I think we got a great kid on our hands. We got a hell of an athlete on our hands. Do we have a franchise quarterback who can win from the pocket? I am in no way ready to say that. And I think it's ludicrous for anyone to be able to make that evaluation yet, considering, you didn't see it in college. You had the concerns, and obviously you still see the very limited nature of his ability to win from the pocket. So, it's going to come down to whether or not he becomes a franchise quarterback. If he becomes a franchise quarterback, everything else, the Hayden Hurst miss, all the other stuff doesn't really matter, right? We got ourselves a franchise quarterback. So, but
are we calling it a miss already? Are we into the miss? Are we into miss territory already?
Yeah, I fair point. I'm not ready to call that a miss yet, but to me, when I see what Calvin Ridley's doing, and and I'm playing the comparison game a little bit, which isn't fair to him, in fairness. But we're talking about a 25-year-old rookie tight end who we'll see. So, irrespective of that, I think this draft class will go as Lamar goes, and that's where I stand on this right now.
All right, Al, you're up.
All right. I'll make my first round pick comments brief because I think everyone's touched on it. We've talked about the Hayden Hurst pick. Um, I think if you go back to some of these initial podcasts we did, everybody wanted a wide receiver, whether it was DJ Moore or whether it was Calvin Ridley. There were some pluses and minuses for both guys. But when you saw the Ravens trade back twice and have the opportunities to still select one of these guys, the Hayden Hurst pick was a little head scratching. At least I know it was. At least I know it was for me. Um, I think Lamar Jackson has a lot of talent, and when they traded back into the first round, I get it. The trade back into the first round is solely to get the fifth-year option on this guy, because if he does pan out, you're paying him a lot less than on a 3-year deal, and then you got to pay him $30 million if he plays well. So I get it, and I get why they made the trade up, why you get Lamar Jackson. As far as his impact on the team so far, the one thing that I'm seeing, and I know we'll get to this a little later on, but when we talk about the wide receivers, is that I think the other players on the team like this guy. Um, by all accounts, everything that you hear about Lamar Jackson is this guy works hard. He wants to get better. He has the right attitude, and he works hard. So some of the things that are wrong with his game today, such as just not being a natural passer, especially from the pocket, I think he'll improve on. And he has the talent where I don't think he needs to be Tom Brady from the pocket. I think he just needs to make sure he hits on the passes, like when you have John Brown running wide open to the end zone. That's a pass that he needs to hit. I think that was John Brown that was running on the drag route across the field that he threw that sidearm pass to. That was kind of behind him, and he just couldn't get to the football. Those are the passes I think with some time this offseason. Hopefully he should be able to complete, but that's what you need him. That's what you need him to change. If he can run for 75 yards a game and pass for 225, 250, I think that could be a winning combination for the Ravens minus the turnovers. Um, let's jump to the later rounds. I like the next few picks after that. The third round picks are playing well. Orlando Brown is already an impact starter. Mark Andrews. Hindsight, Mark Andrews is going to be the tight end that he's been so far. I think Ozzie easily runs in and turns in that Calvin Ridley card. Jumping to the fourth round, Averett. I know he was hurt for a little bit, but he's shown some promise. I like Kenny Young. Kenny Young's played well at the beginning of the season. I think Peanuts come on a little bit and earned a little more playing time, but I think Kenny Young's playing well. He still has a lot to learn, but I think he's going to be an impact player for this defense moving forward. Everybody knew the receivers that they took in this draft weren't going to see the football field this year. Deshaun Elliott was one guy that I know I wanted to see at the safety spot. And depending upon how things turn out next year and who they cut, he could be an impact player for this team. But I like Chuck Clark, and I know Chuck Clark's not a rookie, but I like Chuck Clark minus a few plays he gave up last week. The other guy that I don't think anybody mentioned yet is Bradley Bozeman. He started a couple games for the team this year. This was a guy that coming in out of the draft. A lot of the critics said, "Hey, this guy's not athletic. He's not going to be a player at the NFL level." And I think he's come in, started at that left guard spot, and he's played serviceably well for them. I don't think he's been a stud, but I think he's played good enough. That hopefully if he can move forward and get a little better next year, maybe the Ravens can put him into a position where he could replace Skura as your starting center, or he could actually be a starting guard for this team potentially in the near future. Seiler, I like. I think he's a great player. He's played a little bit this year. I think been inactive mostly for the last few weeks. And then when you get to the undrafted guys, I mean, Gus Edwards has been great over the last 3 games. I mean, he's gonna surpass the numbers probably in 5 games that Alex Collins has put up for the Ravens in almost half of a season. So I mean that shows you the impact that Edwards has had so far on this team. So I think the rookies are definitely making an impact. I'm on both sides of the ball, and that's really with Mark Andrews, with Orlando Brown, with Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar Jackson has just created some energy on this team. I think that the defense the defense is rallying around Lamar. He's giving them some energy. I think people see maybe how hard he's working in practice, and I'm not there. But there's something about this team that this team just has a different energy with Lamar Jackson at the helm than what they do with Joe Flacco. I mean, I don't think Terrell Suggs was rushing the passer the way he was in last week at all in week 7, 8 when Joe Flacco was in there. So I think there's something to be said about Lamar Jackson and what Lamar Jackson is doing for this team. But I think the rookies are having a solid impact so far. But again, I think the jury's out on the first round pick. So I really don't want to say if we've hit on Lamar Jackson. And I won't call Hayden Hurst the bust to the points I think Rob's probably getting ready to bring up, where it takes tight ends really a year to get themselves together. I mean, we saw Gronk had a great first year, I mean, with 10 touchdowns, but put up similar, I mean, low catch numbers, 40 catches, 10 of them were touchdowns. I think Antonio Gates didn't put up great numbers, and then comes back the next year with like 1,000 yards. Jimmy Graham, the same thing. So Hayden Hurst year 2 will really be the year to judge to see if Hayden Hurst was either a hit or a miss. So over to you, Rob.
My turn. All right, I was going to make some of those points you made there. No one was really talking about Gus Edwards, the undrafted rookie, making a huge impact. But I don't think I've seen a draft class in Ravens history so far that has made this much of an impact with this many players. Like you guys said, Kenny Young, Gus Edwards, Bozeman, Lamar, Mark Andrews. I mean, Orlando Brown. Geez, I almost forgot about him. This was huge. They needed a hit in this draft class. You guys all remember we talked about that before. They had to hit in this draft class. They had to do well, and they did that. And these guys have made a huge, huge impact on the last 3 games. But more importantly, Hayden Hurst. And let me come back to that in a second. You got to give the guy a little bit of time. He did catch a touchdown in the Carolina game. He had a nice passing route that he went out on. He caught a nice touchdown. It's going to take a little time for him. We still have 4 games left. You might see some Hayden Hurst come in here, make a play or 2, and then you guys might be changing your mind on him. So I'll agree, jury's still out on Hurst. But the biggest impact guys are Lamar, are Orlando, are Kenny Young, are Gus Edwards, is Mark Andrews. Those 5 guys all together have really turned this team around and have been big impacts the past 3 weeks. So they nail it on the draft class. Free agency, we're about to talk about in a minute. We'll come back to the wide receivers, but I'm not too sure some of these wide receivers will be here next year. Obviously, they're going to have to kind of rehaul it again, it looks like. But let's move on to the defense, because we haven't really gotten into our defense in the past 3 weeks. This defense has been a miracle. They have come back to life. They have dominated. And like I said on the podcast 3 weeks ago, we have a great defense, but you got to give them rest, because there's rookies, there's veterans on there that can't play a full 30 minutes, it looks like to me. They got to play in that short field. They got to have time of possession. The offense has got to do its job to give these guys a rest, and they've done that the last 3 weeks, and we see the results of that. So let's talk defense. Baltimore Ravens do have the #1 overall defense. So I'm going to kick it off with Vince. What are your thoughts on this defense? What do you think? Hit it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously love what they've been doing lately, but I'm also not even going to come close to crowning them yet, because we must have short memories around here, but I remember a certain defense that was lights out for most of the year, and then we came into a Week 17 game, and really before that, there was the Pittsburgh game. But when then we came into a Week 17 game needing to stop, and we didn't get it. So, look, I think Wink, Wink's defense. What concerns me about it is I don't know that we've solved the ball out quick offense yet. And, I think that will, when you look at some of the playoff teams that, that are in there, you're talking about offenses that will get the ball out quick a lot against us, particularly because we tend to pressure, and we pressure more than anyone in the league, to be clear. But and when we pressure, it does leave some of that ball out quick game. So, I need to see Wink be able to adjust. I mean, you're talking about, two bad offenses in the last 2 weeks. Frankly, I mean, you're talking an AJ Green less Bengals offense. I will, that's trash, to be honest. And then, the Raiders are the Raiders. I did like what I saw against the Falcons. I do think, though, looking back, we presented almost a perfect scenario defense for them because, they are a drop back down the field type passing offense with a statue quarterback that knows where he's going to be. And I think Wink knew that and dialed it up from the first play, and we just dominated. So while I love what I see, it's all about sustaining it and closing it out. And, if we continue with the same formula on offense that we have, obviously they'll be all on the field less, but the problem is when we get punched in the mouth and we have to really hold offenses down when, if that is where at the end of the day, especially late, that they will have something to prove against some of these offenses coming down the line. But, at the end of the day, they turned it around well after the bye. I think, certainly Wink played to his strengths. I do think the one thing about Suggs, somebody brought up Suggs earlier about not, playing a lot harder. That is because, frankly, we managed his reps in the first half of the year. If you look at his snap counts in the first half of the year, he was purposely not on the field. And I think we smartly decided to let him loose a little bit now in the second half of the year. And he even talked about it after the Falcons game. So, I think that is watch that to be a key. I think Suggs is rounding into form because he didn't have to play full snaps in the first half because they were rotating more and limiting, his snaps. I think that could be big because if you get this pass rush going, the secondary is the strength of this defense. And I think we just need to, if we can continue to have them healthy and playing at a high level, then there is reason why this can be a different year.
All right. Al, defense.
I mean, as far as the defense goes, I mean, I like what I've seen so far from the defense, and I understand where Vince is going with the fact that I think this defense hasn't solved the short pass or the quick pass really quarterbacks. But when I look at the next 4 games, I feel like these are all quarterbacks that like to throw the ball down the field and are going to give our defense enough time to get to them if we can. Really, when you look at Phillip Rivers, that offense likes to throw the ball down the field. Baker Mayfield, and then this week, Patrick Mahomes. Of course, they like to throw the ball down the field in Kansas City. I'm sure Kansas City is going to work on some things to get the ball out a little early. And then against Tampa Bay, with Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston loves to hold the football and throw some interceptions. So as far as the defense goes, this week I think the corners really played well. I will say that the corners got away with a few. I think Matt Ryan threw a couple bad passes in the game, but the pass rush was there. 3 sacks in the game. I like the fact that Zadarius Smith really showed up again this week. So he played. I thought he played a great game. Wasu played another solid game as well. Jimmy Smith, one of the guys that I'll say kind of up until really this week, I feel like since he came back, Jimmy Smith has really to me been a disappointment. So my hope is that for Jimmy Smith in that secondary, that it just took him some time to kind of get back up to speed. And now he's going to play lights out for the rest of the season. But Jimmy Smith was definitely a bright spot this week. So I guess I'll start my defensive comments with the front three in terms of I mean, I think Brandon Williams played well. I mean, he's always, I think, a key component to shutting down the run. He just doesn't really get the stats because he's not going to get you really any sacks. The linebackers, I thought played well. Suggs had a solid game. Zadarius Smith had a solid game. No Tyus Bowser. I'm wondering where that guy is. I mean, he's probably another second round bust for us. It seems like to me. But the other outside linebackers played well. Judon. So I like the linebacker play, and Eric Weddle, a guy that I thought been kind of underwhelming. I love the pass breakup against Julio Jones down the field, and I don't think Chuck Clark was perfect in this game. But the one thing that I did like about Chuck Clark is I just feel like Chuck Clark is a better athlete than Tony Jefferson, and Chuck Clark was around the football a little more than what I feel like Tony Jefferson really is. I don't think Tony Jefferson just has the athleticism to get down the field and cover anybody and really make any plays at this point, or I haven't seen it this year. I think he was the better player last year. The one concern I do have for the defense is on the back end. I mean, these corners and safeties just aren't getting any turnovers. The Ravens do not have a lot of interceptions as a defense, and we've got to start getting our hands on some of these footballs and taking them the other way from a turnover perspective. So,
well, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
When the quarterback only throws for 131 yards, there are going to be a lot of interceptions, just to let you know. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I want to say the Ravens defense is 5 picks on the season.
Turnovers has definitely been an issue, but I think clearly there's more. There's more there, but the secondary is the strength of this team. I think. I mean, Marlon Humphrey, by the way, needs to go to the Pro Bowl immediately.
Oh yeah, Marlon Humphrey's has been a beast on the corner so far. I mean, he had a hell of a game against Atlanta. I mean, a few times matched up against Julio. I think he had that breakup against Calvin Ridley when he was falling to the ground. And I want to say that was Marlon Humphrey that knocked the ball out of his hands. So Marlon Humphrey's playing very well. He's having a heck of a season, and I think he's certainly going to be a very soon to come number one corner for the Ravens defense. So, I mean, I think the Ravens defense is legit. Look back to that performance against the Saints. Some of the games that they've lost, the Saints game, I mean, you held a team that's a 30-plus point offense. I mean, they held them to 20 in the 20s. I mean, that game against Cleveland, I mean, you held them to 9 and we still lost the game. So this defense is a great defense. The Steelers put up a lot of points in that second game, but that's a division game, so I'm not overly worried about that one. So this weekend is really going to be their big litmus test for the season. And if the defense can show up this week and the Ravens can get the win, I think it's going to go a long way to the Ravens winning the division and getting a home playoff game.
Yeah, we have 5 interceptions. That is correct. 35 sacks as well, which is bigger than worrying about interceptions.
Yeah, five interceptions, and nobody has 2. Like, it's 1 for 5 different guys.
Yeah, that's correct. Bill, you're up. Defense.
Yeah. I mean, the defense played great against the Falcons. I was extremely enthused to see the performance. Matt Ryan had 97 yards net passing. That's outrageous for a quarterback. I mean, I'm no great Matt Ryan supporter, but he puts up numbers, and he's got a lot of talented players on that offense. So yeah, to hold them down the way we did, man, they didn't have anything. They had no shot in that game. And so yeah, I saw a thing that blew my mind. I mean, well, that's overstating it. I thought it was surprising. Julio Jones had 2 catches in the first drive, and then for the last 57 minutes and 22 seconds did not have a catch in the game. So that's balling. Yeah. And Humphrey has a lot to do with that. Marlon Humphrey is playing lights out right now. And the thing that I like the best about him is even when he gets beat, like the guy is going to catch the ball. He just gets a shot in there, gets an arm in and puts it in exactly the right spot. He's playing terrific ball. And so I'm extremely excited about him. I think despite the fact that I still believe the statement Brandon Williams is overpaid to be a true statement, Brandon Williams has been playing excellent ball and Pierce has been playing excellent ball. So our D tackles, because of our low snap count numbers, being able to rotate those 2 big guys, they are never not fresh ever. And the play is showing out of those 2 guys. And so, yeah, Chuck Clark, I'm a big Chuck Clark guy. I've been talking about Chuck Clark since we drafted him. I like Chuck Clark. And so, yeah, he was playing excellent, so excellent, in fact, that I jinxed him by saying, look at how great Chuck Clark's playing. And then he had 2 bonehead plays in a row. But, you take the good with the bad. Also, I thought I saw another thing that I was surprised about this week. Kenny Young had the highest rating from Pro Football Focus of our entire team. It was like 92 and something. And I didn't really think that he did not have a memorable game to me, other than the fact that that Matt Ryan almost hit Coleman on a deep post, or I'm sorry, on a deep corner route over Kenny Young's head, and Matt Ryan just didn't hit him. And thankfully we dodged that bullet. But yeah, in general, I like the way the defense is playing right now. Weddle, in a very veteran move right out of the gate in the first, I think it was in the first quarter. I'm pretty sure it was in the first quarter. He forced Matt Ryan into taking a timeout, and then he was so happy about it that he was like, yeah, I got him. So he was playing games. He was up and back to the line of scrimmage, and Ryan, he forced Ryan to call a timeout. So, yeah, Weddle is not playing as well as I would have hoped, and his skills and speed especially are deteriorating before our very eyes. But he still knows how to play ball sometimes. And in those, the 2 instances we've talked about, the timeout games and poking that ball out from Julio Jones he had a good game. So, yeah, I like the defense right now.
Yeah, the defense makes you feel much better about this team's chances going forward. I'll agree with you on that. All right, we're going to hit wide receivers briefly, and then let's just go ahead and move on to the next 4 games, including that Chiefs game. I don't have much to say about the wide receivers other than the fact they're going to have to get different wide receivers again next year. They're going to have to draft somebody. They're going to have to get somebody else in here. I don't know, man. I keep going Snead. I'll put it that way towards you. But I get these guys are a little bit upset. They're not getting the football. But I think if they're patient, and I think this is the game they have to be patient coming up next we'll talk about. But the wide receivers – We need to throw the football more. I'll agree with you guys on that. With Lamar Jackson, he needs to start hitting these guys a little bit more to start opening up the field more. That obviously would give way to scoring more points. But they got a big challenge ahead of them. So we'll hit wide receivers up. Bill, you want to start off with wide receivers? Any thoughts?
I don't really have too much to say about wide receivers. I've been disappointed with Crabtree. He needs to catch the ball. I mean, I was hoping we were going to get Anquan Bolden, and we have not gotten Anquan Bolden. I like what Snead has brought to the offense, although he has not performed as well in the last couple weeks as I thought he would, because Jackson is much more comfortable throwing the ball between the hashes, and I thought Snead was going to eat once Jackson got on the field, and that hasn't happened. So I've been a little bit disappointed, although Jackson did miss him on a crossing pattern where he definitely would have gotten a first down. So there's that. But going forward, I definitely don't want Crabtree back. I definitely would not pay John Brown the kind of money he's probably going to get, even though I don't really think he's earned it, like, in any way. I mean, we paid him 1 year for $5 million. and I wouldn't sign him to another $5 million per year contract. I don't know if anybody else will or not. My inclination is they probably will, just because he's a speedster. But I wouldn't want him back for 5, 6, 8 million. I wouldn't want John Brown for that money. I would keep Snead and I would keep Chris Moore, because I think Moore has value across the board. He's a great special teams player and a decent kickoff returner, or at least a guy that can get us out of a game at a returner spot. I like Moore and I like Snead. And if John Brown is cheap, I would definitely keep him as a third option. I would definitely be looking to get 1A and 1B and number 2 in the coming off season. I don't know, free agency or draft. I have no idea who's out there yet. I haven't really paid attention.
All right. Al, wide receivers, anything, what do they need to improve, or anything along those lines, or did we see the football more?
On the wide receivers, kind of like probably everyone's going to say. There's not much in terms of the wide receivers that I really have to say. The wide receivers are going through a transition right now because they're all learning how to play with Lamar Jackson at this point. I think everybody was, got familiar, learned how to play with Joe, and now it's a little bit different. The team's running the football a little more, and I'm sure that's not what some of these receivers thought they were getting themselves into. I would definitely look to bring Willie Snead back. If I had to guess, I expect Crabtree will probably be back next year as well. I think somebody's probably going to pay John Brown, and I wouldn't pay John Brown money. I don't think the Ravens with Lamar Jackson are going to be as in need of a deep stretch the field down the field kind of guy for one reason, and that's really because Lamar Jackson can move around. And when you have a quarterback that can move around in the pocket, that gets guys open, because no cornerback in this league can cover a wide receiver that long. So eventually they're going to change direction and run across the field and just get open. This year's draft doesn't seem like a draft that's going to be strong on receivers, especially at this point if the Ravens make the playoffs, where they're going to be drafting in the first round. So hopefully the front office, DaCosta, I guess Ozzie, the newest scout, are scouting receivers for next year. But I think the receivers are doing a good job in terms of blocking. When the Ravens score a touchdown, when Lamar scored this weekend, the receivers are excited. So I'm okay with the wide receivers doing whatever it is that they're asked to do right now. Just block somebody and catch the ball when it comes your way if Lamar doesn't throw it behind you.
All right, Vince, wide receivers, any thoughts, updates real quick?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to evaluate the wide receivers right now in this offense. When you don't have many opportunities and you're throwing the ball for 125 yards, it's obviously going to look and feel different. It's not going to be a true evaluation. I thought John Brown was playing really well, but the bottom line is he's not a number one receiver. So if someone's going to try to pay him like that kind of money or anything like that, then obviously you let him walk. But I can't say anything bad about how he's really played. I think he's been the best receiver for sure of the three. Crabtree's dropped too many passes, and he has disappeared a little bit. He single-handedly pretty much cost us one game. I'm still mad about that, by the way. And the crazy part is we signed him to a 3-year deal, and I don't know that I have much interest in bringing Crabtree back. I get that, he's by all accounts a good guy in the locker room, and he seems like he was going to be that type of receiver that does well for us. Just for whatever reason, it's just been a little inconsistent, and so we'll see about him. Snead, I think a little bit too. I think with all the Crabtree drop problems, everyone's overlooking the fact that Snead's dropping one a game at this point. So, I like his ability to separate in the slot. So, I wouldn't mind keeping him on the cheap either. Chris Moore is the guy I really want to talk about. that is, I, I think the future. I think he needs to. We need to commit to him starting next year. I really think we have something there. The guy makes plays every time he's in the game, and he may not be the fastest. He's not the biggest, but he'll win balls. He's very competitive at the catch point. I just love everything I see from Chris Moore every time he steps on the field. And, I think he could be a nice little fit for the Lamar offense because he's got a little bit of everything. He can catch, anything that comes his way, even, if he gets, a poor ball. I feel like he adjusts to the ball well. I think he just needs to see more time.
And
All right.
just to jump in there, Rob,
Yeah.
just some thoughts on the receivers. I looked up just some of the free agent names for next year, and there's not a lot of good ones. But what would you guys think about bringing in Tavon Austin? He's a free agent next year to pair with Lamar Jackson. A lot of speed on the field.
No.
I can't tell. I tried to stay away from the off-season component. It's hard to tell right now. I mean, I think we got a lot to see how this season closes out, and we got a lot of time for that.
There's no good free agent wide receivers on the market, just so you know, for next year. Larry Fitzgerald.
That's why I said draft.
I will say we need to focus, and we need to get a return man, a legit return man. We need to have one guy that does punt and kickoff who is if he's not the best return man in college football, I want the second best return man in college football, whatever. Pick a guy who's a great return man. Like if he can give us, minutes on, snaps on offense or defense, then great. But get a return man. I want a dedicated return man who is dynamite.
They just had him. Janarius Grant, he dropped the football too much.
We need one that holds on to the ball. We need one that keeps the ball in their possession.
I like Cyrus Jones. Cyrus Jones is doing has done a solid job.
I like Cyrus.
All right, we'll move on here. All right, moving on to what we really have been looking forward to here, the Chiefs game. Ravens Chiefs. We're going to talk about that one in the Bucks, and let's kind of kick it off here. Time of possession to me is the actual key to beating the Kansas City Chiefs. If you can obviously do what we've been doing, they have a bad rushing defense. We can run on these guys. I think the game plan here should be stick to running the football. We're gonna make some throws in this game, but I think run the football, play great defense like we've been doing. If you can keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, obviously that's great. But there's no Kareem Hunt. They just re-signed West. He's going to be a little bit rusty. I don't think Spencer Ware is anything to really be concerned about. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, those are the two big guys. And what we did last week was we took away Julio Jones. And we really kind of took away Calvin Ridley. We could do that again against these guys. We got this game. So about 3 weeks ago when I was pretty concerned about the Chargers, not the Chiefs, and that was on the podcast, I'm not really concerned about this game that much. I think we got to win here. I think this team is going to play great defense. I think we're going to run it down their throat. I think we're going to shock everybody with this win. So I'm going to go with Ravens win this game 27-17. 27-17. That's correct. That is correct. The Chiefs will not score on 17 points. That defense will hold them. So I'm going to go with this game here, 27-17. I'm going to move on to the Bucks game as well, give a quick preview of that. They have nothing, and there's no – that's a win. In fact, that's going to be a Lamar Jackson passing awesomeness. I think he's going to have a couple good rushes in that game. That's a win. We're going to win the next two, 9-5. We're going to come back just before that Chargers game because those last two games are going to be big. So we're going to go 2-0. I'm not sure who else is going to try to hop on the bandwagon. I'm sure some people will. Bill, you were riding shotgun. You're fine. But Vince and Al, I don't know about you two, but I'm going with the Ravens beat the Chiefs here, 27-17. And, in fact, you know what? I'll take it up a notch. You know what? I'm going to take it up a notch because I like to do that. Ravens 34, Chiefs 20. Ravens 34, Chiefs 20. The Ravens are going to pretty much own them, and the only reason they score a field goal or a touchdown is because we let them in the last 2 seconds. But this game, we're going to dominate, and we're going to show everybody in the NFL there's a new sheriff in town, and his name's Lamar Jackson. All right, I'll hit it up next to I can see he's laughing at Bill pretty hard, so I'm going to go with Al. Go ahead, Al. Your thoughts on the Chiefs game, and you get the Bucs game as well. Are you going to hop on my bandwagon now? Are you hopping on? Because you're going to have to say it before you make your preview and your prediction here.
I'm gonna do the reverse here and take the easy way out. I definitely think the Ravens are going to beat the Bucs. It looks like the Bucs are going to shut down Deshaun Jackson for the rest of the season. So that takes away one of their deep threats on offense. And I just don't think Jameis Winston is that good of a quarterback. He hasn't progressed since coming into the league as a number one pick. And that defense is atrocious there. I don't think they'll be able to defend Lamar Jackson. And the game is here for Tampa Bay. So I think the Ravens will get the win against Tampa Bay. This weekend's game is going to be tough. I mean, you're going into Arrowhead. Those fans up there can get loud. They're going to score. I think they're going to score points. I think they're going to score more than 20. And the Ravens offense has got to be prepared to score with them. One of the things
you're on the bandwagon.
One of the things I'll say is that the Ravens have got to work on that 2-minute offense, because if we're put into a situation at the end of this game or at the end of the half where they've got to score, they've got to do a better job than what we did this past week. It just didn't seem like everybody knew what was going on, and I don't think Lamar Jackson knew enough to get up to the line, call the play, and move on. So I want to see the Ravens. Hopefully this week they're working on the 2-minute offense for this game. I do think the Ravens get the win. I think that all of the players in that Ravens locker room understand that this is the game that is going to make or break their playoff chances. And the reason that I say that is because there are some other teams coming up at the end of the season that have some very easy games left, and that team really being the Denver Broncos, where I believe Denver plays I know they play the Raiders, but they have a few other easy games, it looks like, to finish out the season. And they very well could win the rest of their games. So in order to kind of keep pace with them, the Ravens have to win this game. I see the Ravens hopefully finishing out at 10-6. I think they're going to beat the Chiefs this weekend. I think Harbaugh and the coaching staff is going to have them prepared for this game. I think whether it's going to be Harbaugh stays in Baltimore or if he goes somewhere else, I think he wants to go out on a solid note. And I think they're able to get the win against Andy Reid in the offense. I think just everything that's kind of gone on with Kareem Hunt in the past week has kind of thrown this team for a loop. You lose the leading rusher. I think he was probably the fourth leading receiver in that offense. Kareem Hunt contributed a lot to the Chiefs offense. Just to take him out is huge. The Ravens have got to block some of those guys up front. I forget the defensive tackle's name. He's got like 10 sacks this year, and they were gushing over him in the last game in prime time. I think that was on Monday night when they played the Rams. So they've got some guys that can get to the quarterback, even though they give up a lot of points. So Lamar Jackson's going to have to avoid the sacks. I think he does. I think they get the win. Rob, I will say agree with you. I think the Ravens go 2-0.
All right, Home. Let me throw something back at you real quick. Give me your bold prediction on how many rushing yards the Ravens have in this Chiefs game.
I say they get 289 yards rushing.
289. I like that. It's bold. All right, Vince, you're up. Chiefs, Bucs. Your thoughts, predictions, and I'll throw a question back after you're done.
All right. The Chiefs game is a very, very tough game, and I think it'll be a nice barometer for what the ceiling of this Lamar Jackson offense and this formula, I should just say this, the formula that we have, what the ceiling of this formula is. So, you know, I think if we put up another defensive effort like we did in Atlanta, and we can do that in Kansas City, then you know what, we may very well be able to steal one. But you know, I think frankly we're just a little too limited now, and I think some good points were brought up. You know, that 2-minute drill, you know, was a real eye opener about what the limits are right now with the Lamar offense. So, you know, if we are in a spot where we need a touchdown to win the game with less than 2 minutes left, you know, that I'm not feeling too good about that. Let's just put it that way. This has been a very much grinded out offense. So, you know, if we're put in that position against Kansas City, it'll be tough. But, you know, I think we will give them a hell of a battle. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, we went how many? We went 65 minutes into this podcast, and I don't think Joe Flacco was muttered at all. But
Who?
you know, so yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone's going to say who, but you know, I mean, obviously we'll see his participation in practice this week. I think there's no question about this week, to be honest. We're all in. But, you know, when you start thinking big picture about our ability to, you know, get the 6th seed and move on, you know, I think this is really, you really got to see where we're at. So I think it is really important for Lamar to show that he can, you know, play with a little more poise. I mean, he put the ball on the ground 3 times, you know, in a span of a quarter, 1 return for a touchdown. I promise you, if we do that in Arrowhead, we are not walking out of there with the win. So we can get that out of our head. You know, they are way too good of a football team to be able to do that against. So, you know, and every game there's been turnovers. There's been a lot of balls on the ground. I mean, we've recovered a lot of them, thankfully, but there's been a lot of balls on the ground and some picks. So that is a huge concern on the road here. And I think Lamar needs to be able to put together a clean game from that perspective so we can give this Chiefs game a battle. I think if he does that, win or lose, we can feel really good about saying, hey, we can give it our best shot with Lamar. But if we go into Arrowhead and, you know, it becomes a sloppy turnover mess and, you know, our limitations get exposed if the Chiefs jump out to a lead on us, and then depending on Joe, I think at that point you would be crazy if you think Harbaugh doesn't have a decision to make. So, you know, I think this is a big week for Lamar to show that we can play a clean game. He can hit some passes down the field when we need him to. We're going to need him to win an Arrowhead. I mean, I don't see an avenue of him throwing for 125 yards and us walking out of Arrowhead with a win. So, you know, I think this is, you know, and I don't think it needs to come with so much pressure. I mean, but hey, you know, I just feel like I hope the weight of the world isn't on him right now because, you know, some of the delusions of grandeur that that are out there right now, like he's, you know, Rob with the White Knight coming to save this, you know, I mean, I love it all, but can we realistically think that that's going to happen this year with the current construct of how this offense is? You know, I think we need to be able to see a lot more. I think that, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, if we can get this win and you know, then that really changes the calculus of my opinions, you know, about where we're at. So, you know, but in the grand scheme of things, we can lose this game, and I disagree. I think we can go 9-7 and still win. The Bucs game, I'm not even wasting any time on. we will take care of business at home against the Bucks. No doubt about that. And I think bottom line is we can be 8-7, even if we lose to the Chargers going into week 17 and feel pretty good about if we beat the Browns, we're in the playoffs. And I really think that scenario, Denver's won 3 in a row, so they're going to win 4 more. They're going to win 7 in a row, this Denver team. I mean, I don't care who they're playing. I know they got the Niners, the Browns, whoever, but I don't see them reeling off 7 in a row. And outside of that, you're talking about some teams that are going to really have to run the table or do some big things because we have a lot of tiebreaker advantages. So we'll see. I'm really excited about this game.
Oh, hang on. Let's throw a bold prediction out there. Give me a bold prediction for the Chiefs game. What do you think?
I think we get them in a slugfest, but we ultimately come up a little short.
Oh, you guys lost. You're not on the bandwagon.
I know it's impossible to think after when we win 3 straight, we could lose another football game potentially. But, look, I'm all in rooting. I mean, but, this is a
apparently you're not, sir. You're rooting for a loss.
No, that is for sure not. But, it's
all right, so you have us losing the Chiefs, winning at the Bucks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, Bill, you're up. No bold prediction from this guy. No bold prediction, Vince?
Bold prediction?
Give me a bold prediction. None. All right. Bill.
Hold on.
Wait. He's got one now. Joe Flacco comes in halftime.
Suggs gets a pick 6.
All right, Suggs gets a pick 6. I like it. All right, Bill.
I'll take that. Yeah, I mean my concern with the Chiefs themselves is that Travis Kelce gives us a problem that we have not been able to deal with thus far in the season. Our linebackers, despite the fact that Kenny Young has played well, and I'm enthusiastic about the future, he's still a rookie, and Travis Kelce is a professional, and I'm concerned. So I think if I was Wink Martindale, I would have Jimmy Smith follow Travis Kelce around the field. Yeah, he's going to get blocked a little bit, but Jimmy Smith's not going to be with the team next year. So I put him on him. Sorry, Jimmy Smith, if you're a listener of the podcast. But yeah, as far as our attacking the Kansas City defense, I'm enthusiastic about our chances to do damage in the running game. And then hopefully, as a byproduct of being able to run the football so effectively, we'll be able to actually hit a couple of big shot type passes, whether that's to Brown or Andrews or Moore, whomever. If we can, I would love to see us, connect on a couple of big plays in the passing game. As far as, I don't really think that Flacco has a chance to get back on the field now. I think that the Atlanta game was the litmus test for whether this was going to be Lamar Jackson's football team or not. And I think that I don't think Flacco gets back on the field. I really don't. I don't know how they will handle that as far as media stuff goes, what they'll say, or, if they'll shut Flacco down. Oh, his hips not responding to treatment the way we want, or whatever, oh, he had a little setback, whatever they do to save face. But I don't think they're going to go back to Flacco, even if Lamar shits the bed in Kansas City, although I don't believe he's going to do that. I just don't think they're going to go back to Flacco. I think Bisciotti has seen enough. We've talked about it before, and I mentioned it in the last podcast. Rob made us listen to the other podcast as homework, a punishment of some type. So, I said it in the last podcast. If anybody who has seen Steve Bisciotti at a Terps basketball game knows that Joe Flacco is not going to see the field again this year. He does not want to see boring ass offensive football. And yes, Lamar Jackson has limitations. It is certainly true that he needs to throw the ball better. and we're going to need to connect on some passing, some aspects of the passing game against Kansas City if we want to have a chance to win. But I can't see it. I cannot see it. With the locker room, the way that the locker room has responded to Jackson, you pull him, oh, he had a bad game at Kansas City, we're going to go back to Joe Flacco. No. You think there was a revolt when Bernard Pollard was in the locker room? No, that's going to be a big problem. So, yeah, I think Flacco's all done, and we're going to ride with Lamar, whatever. But there are aspects of the Chiefs offense that do concern me, but I think we're going to win. The Atlanta Falcons had the ball for 5 minutes in the second half. So, yeah, the defense has got to play ball. But I think we've got the horses to do it. The Kansas City offense is rolling, and Pat Mahomes is ridiculous. But I don't know what defenses he's played, and I don't know how he played against them. Obviously, they're extremely successful. I think they're 10-2 or something. But I think I'll take the Pepsi challenge with our defense. I'm excited for the game. So we'll see. If I had to make a prediction on score, I think Kansas City's going to get theirs. So I'm gonna bet on our defense to hold them to field goals. I'm gonna go Ravens 27, Chiefs 24 is what I'm gonna say. And we're going to demolish the Bucs.
All right, give me a bold prediction for the Chiefs game.
I'm going to say Michael Crabtree goes off. 8 catches, 105, 2 touchdowns.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. I like it. All right, I'll give a bold prediction for you. Lamar Jackson over 300 yards passing in this game. Oh, you heard it. Over 300 yards. That sounds like Bill is on the bandwagon. It sounds like Aldo has decided to hop on the bandwagon, but we still got one guy that's trying to get on there, but he's like Spider-Man movie. He just can't catch the bus. So
hey, if he throws 300, if he throws for 300 yards and we beat the Chiefs, consider me on.
Oh, consider you on. Who said we stopped? That's your problem. Now look. I'm going to throw one more question around.
I love you. I love you, Rob. I love your optimism.
Oh, is that optimism, sir? You never give up. Never. Look, we're going to go 2-0 here. Let me ask a question since this is early and we have 4 games left. So here's the question. How far will the Ravens go in the playoffs? Just, you can do a quick comment. How far do you think we could go against the Patriots, a Steelers, a Texans team that we might be facing? How far do you think we go in these playoffs? So I'll start with Bill. You want to kick it off? How far do you think we could go against teams like that?
I think we could beat the Steelers and the Patriots. I think if we play Houston, we're going to get beat. Houston's defense matches up extremely well against us. J.J. Watt is a terror on the inside, and they're disciplined and extremely talented. So I would be worried about Houston more so than either Pittsburgh or New England. But if I had to say how far we're going to go, we need to play. We need to make the playoffs first. I'm still holding out. I think there is a legitimate chance that we end up winning the AFC North because Pittsburgh. I mean, James Conner's out with a high ankle sprain, and I don't know what their depth is like, but Le'Veon Bell goes out. We got James Conner. James Conner goes out. Who we got? It's not. I mean, Fitzgerald Toussaint. No. So I don't know what they're going to do. But if we beat the Chiefs, I think we win the division because the Chiefs, I mean, when we 3 weeks ago, when we started talking about, hey, we're going to do the podcast in 3 weeks, if we win 3-0, I was like, man, we have no chance to beat the Chiefs. None. And so if we beat the Chiefs, I think we run the table, baby. Cause we've always had Phillip Rivers' number from my perspective. And, LA is not kind to the Chargers. So it's going to be 30,000 Ravens fans in the LA stadium when during that game. So I 3 weeks ago I counted the Chiefs as a loss. Today, I'm more hopeful. Obviously I'm predicting a win. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think if we beat the Chiefs, I don't think we lose.
All right, so you're on the 11-5 bandwagon now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm calling a Chiefs win, and we're definitely not going to lose to the Bucs. And I think the Chargers. I think that historically we've played well against Philip Rivers.
All right. So we got Bill. You think we can make the playoffs? You think we get the North? Is that correct? Just to recap.
That's right.
We can win the North.
Yeah.
All right, and get a home playoff game.
That would
How
be
far do you think
nice.
we'll go? Do we go to the Super Bowl, AFC Championship, division round?
I'll call it. Well, I mean, it's going to depend on the seeding. It's going to depend on who we draw because I think Houston beats us. So it's going to depend on who we draw at home. If it's Pittsburgh, I like our chances. If it's New England, we'll see. No, New England's going to be a 1 or 2. So
Well, I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just thinking.
I don't know.
How far do you think we could go right
I don't
now?
know. We got to make the playoffs first. I don't know what the fuck we're going to do in the playoffs.
All right, so you got nothing there. All right, Vince, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta. I can't even talk to me Monday. I'll be able to answer this question a lot better.
Let me ask you a question.
Monday
Do we win the North? How far do you think we could go in the playoffs?
If we win the North,
Do we
will
win the North? And how far do you think we could go?
like I said, ask me Monday. I mean, literally, Sunday, I think, is really a test to see what the ceiling of the team as currently constructed is. I mean, I can't look at the team from earlier this year that went into Pittsburgh and won. I have to look at this team now, and I think if we can beat the Chiefs, then you're talking, we are. I agree with everything you guys said. There's no reason why we can't go into LA and win. That's a game. I think now I do think their defense is a little tougher, so I think that could be a little bit tricky. Whereas in some ways, this Chiefs game, because of their weaknesses, I think, I could see that. So maybe we could win the Chiefs and lose the Chargers. But to me, if we win this Chiefs game, I know what type of ceiling we have. Up until now, I'm not really sure, even that road win against Atlanta, it didn't really show me there's a ceiling. That was kind of a broken team. So, if we've all been down this road before. So, I mean, we need to focus on making the playoffs. I think we can get there a lot of different ways, and it doesn't have to include winning Sunday. But I think if you want to hear about the ceiling and some of the things you guys are talking about, I think beating the Chiefs says that, and I think that goes a long way to get in the division. Ultimately, I think at the end of the day, we could be right back where we've been in a position to get that wild card the last week of the year against the Browns. And I don't, Christ, 3 weeks ago, we would have all been happy about that. So, I think we just need to temper expectations a little bit. Where I'm enjoying the ride, but if we can beat the Chiefs, then all right, the calculus at that point obviously changes. Talk to me Monday, but
hold on. Let me ask you a question. You beat the Chiefs, are you Super Bowl contender?
Again, I mean, technically you can make that leap, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at how we win, what the circumstances are. We're obviously in the mix, though. I mean, at that point, you're really pointing towards winning the AFC North because Pittsburgh, they got James Conner. That's a high ankle sprain. It was my boy that I talk about, Rob, the Chow online. He had that ankle sprain from the get. They tried to call it a leg contusion, and now it's all of a sudden Tomlin says today, it's a little more significant, or I guess you can call it a sprain. It's a high ankle sprain, and that means he's probably done for a few weeks. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, we beat the Chiefs and game on. But a loss shouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, they are the second best team in football. So, I'm not, I'm just really interested in this game, and then we'll take it from there. I think that'll go a long way to figuring out what we're about this year.
All right, that sounded boring. All right, Al, go ahead, hit it. Let me hear some bold prediction here. Beat the Chiefs, beat the Bucks. Is this how far you think they're going to playoffs? Do you win the North? Is this team a Super Bowl contender?
I mean, I think everybody out there that's watching the Ravens thinks the game this weekend. You win this game. I think the Ravens are definitely a playoff team, and once you get in the playoffs, I mean, everybody's a Super Bowl contender at that point. I mean, they're probably in a position if you get in as the wild card, or you even get in, as the third or fourth seed. You're gonna end up playing some combination of the Texans, the Chargers, or the Steelers potentially. The Texans, to Bill's point, I think the Texans will be a tough matchup for the Ravens, just because they have a lot of great athletes on that defense up front, with Jadeveon Clowney, who has 7 sacks on the year. I mean, J.J. Watt just kind of goes unsaid, 11.5 sacks. The Honey Badger is kind of back on this team and revitalized himself. I mean, he's got 3 picks on the year and three and a half sacks this season. So they've got some guys that can move around on that defense and make some plays. So the Texans are a team I'm not as confident in the Ravens beating. I mean, if the game is in Pittsburgh, I'd still be confident against the Ravens going up to Pittsburgh and getting a playoff win. Against this Pittsburgh Steelers team, only because I don't think that this defense is athletic enough in Pittsburgh to defend Lamar Jackson. And so I think the Ravens would get a win by keeping Roethlisberger and company off of the football field. So I think the Ravens can get past the first round of the playoffs. I think once they get past the first round, I think a matchup with the Chiefs, and I think Belichick will probably be savvy enough to beat the Ravens, but I think they could get to the second round and lose. Is my bold prediction for the Ravens. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender right now, but Rob, if they win out, that's a whole different story, because then they just kind of got hot at the right time. I went with the Ravens over the Chiefs this weekend because I kind of feel like you got to go with Lamar Jackson while he's hot. And until he loses and proves you wrong, at this point he's won 3 games. I mean, everybody looked at the first 2 games and said, "Oh, they're going to beat the Bengals without AJ Green. Oh, the Raiders are the Raiders; they're terrible." But everybody looked at that game last week and said, "Oh, the Atlanta Falcons have a hell of an offense with the 3 wide receivers that they have, and those receivers are going to eat up the Ravens defense." And they're gonna win this football game. I think most of the pundits out there picked the Falcons to beat the Ravens this week, and the Ravens kind of went in there, and the Falcons never truly looked like they were in the football game. So I think the Ravens have a good shot of getting out of the first round of the playoffs, but that's kind of really where I see this ride coming to an end. The good thing as a Ravens fan, as a Lamar Jackson fan, because he's on the Ravens, is it gives you a great starting point for this kid. If you continue to let him play, you go to the playoffs, you win a game, or even if they go to the playoffs, I mean, that says a lot for the future, because that's going to build a lot of confidence for Lamar.
Wow. I guess I'll wrap it up with, we're a Super Bowl contender. In fact, we're not a contender. We're going to win it. This is the best team in football right now. Number 1 defense, over 200 yards rushing. In fact, when the Ravens run over 240 yards in a game, undefeated, 14-0. 16-0.
Rob,
17-0 because we won the last 3.
Let me add on something. I was gonna say something while everybody else was talking. I was looking it up. In 2012, the San Francisco team that we faced in the Super Bowl, with Kaepernick at quarterback, running basically the same offense that we're running right now, pistol offense, Nevada's offense out of Kaepernick, they did enough to get to the Super Bowl. San Francisco was the number 2 defense that year. They gave up 17 points a game. We're the number 1 defense right now, and we're giving up 17 points a game. So that's it. I mean, we'll see. They didn't have much more on offense than we do, so we'll see.
Vince, watch out. Bill Barber predicted Super Bowl already.
You guys are getting me excited. I'm ready to go now.
We're going to the Super Bowl. I already told you. That was my prediction. 11-5. This team is going to the Super Bowl. Nobody stops us. Nobody. Under Lamar Jackson. Nobody. Now, Vince, you want to hop on this bus right now? You want to change your opinion or not?
I mean, look, I'm going to make objective opinion analysis, but
Stop with your objective. Just make a decision, sir. Are you on the bandwagon?
Talk to me Monday.
So what's our plan going forward? So I would say regardless, whether we win or lose the Chiefs, we're not doing one next week. So if we win two more, are we back after the Bucks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with coming back before the Chargers game.
Yeah. Right after the Bucks game.
All right.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Good stuff.
All right. Well, as I said before, 2-0, the Ravens will go. I just rhymed.
You're a poet. You know it.
All right.
And let me tell you something, Vincent. That bus is now left. It's on its way to the Super Bowl. 3 of us are on the bus now. 1 of us is sitting at home watching the game.
I'm gonna catch a cab Monday morning, and I'll meet up with you guys.
There are no flights. All right. Well, hopefully in 2 weeks we will be back here. We'll be 9-5. We'll destroy the Chiefs. I'll be talking about that and saying, "Hey, listen to this podcast again." Tampa Bay. I think I'm not going to look past Tampa Bay, but I'm just going to say we should win that game. So 2 weeks, we're back. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, I agree. The Ravens should beat Tampa. That's definitely a game they should win.